In this lesson, I'm going to demonstrate how to install the OPNsense software. First, you need to gather all your hardware. As a quick recap, this includes your ISP gateway, your test PC, the computer that you'll use for OPNsense with a keyboard and monitor, 2 Ethernet network cables, and a USB drive containing the OPNsense installer. Here's my setup for reference. Here's my ISP gateway device. This is a T-Mobile 5G21, but most people just call it the T-Mobile trash can. Your gateway needs to be powered on and connected to the internet. You also should go ahead and plug in one of your network cables into the gateway, but leave the other end unplugged for now. Here is my test PC. I'm using a MacBook Pro. This also needs to be powered on. Mine is, the screen is just asleep. Then, plug your second network cable into your test PC, but again, leave the other end unplugged. Since my MacBook didn't have a built-in Ethernet port, I'm using a USB-C to Ethernet adapter. Here's the machine I'm going to install OPNsense on. This is an HP T620 plus thin client. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see the back better. Now, unlike the other two devices, your OPNsense machine should be powered off. You can see that I've attached a USB keyboard, and this is the video cable that connects to my monitor. Here is the power cable. Notice that I did not plug in any network cables. The installer is going to tell you exactly when it's time to do that. This is my USB thumb drive containing the OPNsense installer. When you're ready to begin, insert the USB drive into your OPNsense machine. Then power it on. My power button is back here. Then you need to instruct your machine to boot from the USB thumb drive. Unfortunately, this part varies. There's no universal method to boot from a USB drive. Typically, you'll need to press a special key during boot up, something like F2, F10, F12, escape, or sometimes it's delete. The instructions might be displayed on screen, but you may need to check the motherboard manual, or you may need to search online for the exact steps for your hardware. You'll know that your machine has successfully booted from USB when you see a screen filled with scrolling text like this. For now, just let it all scroll by. There will be various prompts asking you to press keys, but they'll all time out and the process will continue. Do not touch anything until you see the login prompt. This process is OPNsense booting into live mode, which allows you to run it without installation. Okay, so this is the login prompt that you're waiting for. At this point, you have two options. You could log in as root to explore live mode, or you can log in as installer to begin the installation process. We want to start the installation, so go ahead and type in installer, and then the password is OPNsense. That's OPNsense in all lowercase. Now, for security reasons, the cursor is not going to move or display any characters as you type in the password, so don't be surprised. After you log in, the installer will automatically launch. For the first step, you need to choose your keyboard layout. If you have a standard US keyboard like me, you can just select Continue with Default Key Map. Otherwise, you'll need to pick the appropriate entry from the list. Next, you get to choose your file system. You can use ZFS or UFS. Either one will work, but I suggest picking ZFS. It has more features, but uses slightly more memory. Just be aware that this decision is permanent. The only way to switch file systems later is to perform a full reformat and reinstall. When you select ZFS, you'll get an option to configure a mirror or RAID array. If your machine just has a single internal drive like mine, select the stripe option. Also, when you choose ZFS, it's going to ask you to create a Z-pool. Here, you just need to select the drive that you wish to install OPNsense to. And in my case, I only have the one option. Then click OK. You'll then receive one final warning before formatting. Now, this is your last chance to back out. Once you're ready to proceed, click Yes. The installer is now going to reformat your computer and begin copying files from the USB drive. It's also going to perform a validation check to ensure that no files were corrupted during transfer. Once this process is complete, you'll get a screen like this. From here, you have two options. You can change the root password or exit the installer. Since you can easily change the password later, I would go ahead and select Complete Install. Then choose Reboot Now. This screen provides some helpful information on how to access the web interface, but we'll cover that in the next lesson. While your machine is rebooting, go ahead and remove the USB thumb drive and set it aside. You shouldn't need it anymore. Once again, you'll get lots and lots of scrolling text. Ignore all the prompts and wait until you see a login screen. Once you've reached the login screen, this time you're going to log in as root. And for the password, you're going to type in OPNsense. OPNsense. Of course, if you already updated the root password, you'll have to enter the new one here. Once you're logged in, you'll be presented with the following console menu. As you can see, there are quite a few options. But the only thing we need to do is to assign interfaces. So type 1 and press Enter. This is where you will configure one of your network ports to be the WAN interface and another to be the LAN interface. The first question it will ask you is about link aggregation. This is an advanced topic not covered here, so just type in for no and press Enter. The second question is about setting up VLANs or virtual LANs. Again, we're not going to cover this, so type in for no and press Enter. Okay, now we can finally begin to configure our WAN interface. This is going to tell OPNsense which of your physical network ports will be connected to the ISP gateway. It's going to list out all the detected network ports. My machine has 5. These 4 entries correspond to the 4 ports on my Intel card, and this last entry corresponds to the single port on my Realtek card. Your list will look different, but you should see at least 2 ports. Now, theoretically, you could type in the ID of the port number that you intend to use. However, you probably don't know which ID corresponds to which port. So instead, let's use the auto detection feature. To do that, type in A and press Enter. Next, it's going to instruct you to connect the WAN interface. This is when you can finally plug in the network cable leading from your ISP gateway device into one of your network ports on your OPNsense machine. In my case, that would be this yellow cable. Now, the exact port that you use is up to you. In my case, I just need to be sure to not use the port on my Realtek card. Okay, once that cable is connected, press Enter. Notice that it detected port IGB3 for me, but yours may be different. Next, we need to configure the LAN interface. enter A for auto detect, wait for it to instruct you to connect the LAN interface, then plug in the network cable leading to your test PC. In my case, this would be the purple cable. Again, you can choose any port you want. Once you've connected the cable, hit enter. It detected IGB0 for me, but yours may be different. It will then ask if you wish to set up any optional interfaces. You can configure these later, so just press enter without typing anything. Finally, it's going to ask you to confirm all your selections, type Y to confirm, and press enter. OPNsense will then update your interfaces and then return you to the main console menu. Notice the information it displays about my LAN and WAN interfaces. This shows that my LAN is configured to use 192.168.1.1/24. This is the default network range, so it appears to be working correctly. This shows that my WAN has been assigned 2 IP addresses by my ISP gateway. The first is an IPv4, and the second is an IPv6. So it looks like my WAN connection is also working correctly. You should see something similar on your screen. Your LAN entry should look pretty much the same as mine. However, your WAN entry might look a bit different depending upon your ISP. You might get both an IPv4 and IPv6 address, or you might just get one. Both scenarios are fine. If you're not getting any IP addresses on your WAN interface, then it's likely not working properly. Verify that your ISP gateway is powered on and connected to the OPNsense machine. Of course, this is the scenario you'll get if you're using a modem instead of a gateway. To fix that, you're going to need to perform some extra configuration work. I'll show you where to do that in the next lesson. So for now, ignore this issue if you're using a modem. At this point, you have successfully completed the OPNsense installation and the initial interface setup. Go ahead and check your test PC to see if it now has a working internet connection. If it can connect to the internet, then you know everything is working. Before moving on, you may want to consider labeling the network ports on your OPNsense machine. You can use stickers or a Sharpie to clearly mark the WAN and LAN ports, and this can help prevent confusion later. Also, feel free to unplug the keyboard and monitor from your OPNsense machine. From here on out, we're going to be managing the OPNsense machine remotely using the web interface.